and the Brazilian army sent more than 20 armored vehicles and trucks to reinforce the border with Venezuela and Guyana. The dispute over Essequibo, a territory claimed by Venezuela, is causing the action.
But he basically said that we are part of the Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa family. He acted as if he was practically part of the group, as if he was already inside that group.
The Brazilian army mobilizes dozens of armored vehicles and thousands of soldiers and sends them to a region near Venezuela, sending a strong message to Maduro. This unexpected movement caught many by surprise and is generating a lot of reactions about what might happen from now on. Is Brazil about to enter a war with Venezuela? In this video, I'm going to show you the numbers behind this strategic movement by the Brazilian army, and especially why they are doing this now. You will understand why Brazil and Venezuela are facing a crisis. And most importantly, is this going to turn into a bigger conflict? Let's start with the numbers. In November 2024, the Brazilian army began one of the largest military mobilizations we've seen in recent times. Dozens of armored vehicles were sent to Rondônia, including troop transport vehicles and reconnaissance vehicles, as well as thousands of soldiers. In total, more than 50 armored vehicles left Campo Grande in Mato Grosso do Sul, heading toward the northern region of Brazil. These armored vehicles are not alone. They are accompanied by a significant contingent of military personnel, which includes about 600 soldiers from the 18th Mechanized Cavalry Regiment, which is being formed in Roraima. By 2025, this regiment will have 3 operational squadrons ready to respond to any threat. And it doesn't stop there. Brazil has also deployed anti-tank missiles in the region, capable of hitting targets kilometers away. These missiles are a direct response to a possible concentration of armored vehicles or fortified structures on the Venezuelan side. But after all, why is the army mobilizing so much firepower so close to Venezuela? To understand the reason for this mobilization, we need to go back a bit in time and look at what's happening in Venezuela. In recent months, the relationship between Brazil and Venezuela has deteriorated rapidly. Everything started to get tense when President Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela began making a series of provocative and even threatening statements. He even accused Brazil of blatant aggression and hinted that he could expand Venezuelan control over the Brazilian city of Pacaraima on the border due to the large presence of Venezuelan immigrants in the region. In addition, Maduro has been mobilizing troops and strengthening the military presence on the border with Brazil, using fighter jets and missiles to create a climate of hostility. This has raised concerns about Brazilian territorial security, especially in Roraima, which shares a direct border with Venezuela. There are reports that the local population is quite apprehensive and afraid of what might happen. But there's something even worse in this story. The dispute between Venezuela and Guyana over the territory of Essequibo, an area rich in oil, is also heating up. And there's a fear that in a possible conflict, Venezuela might try to use Brazil as an invasion route to Guyana. And this is where we connect the dots. Look, the border between Brazil and Venezuela is over 2,000 kilometers long and, for the most part, is covered by dense jungle. Now imagine if Venezuela decided to invade Brazil. That wouldn't be easy at all. After all, this territory is extremely difficult to cross with large conventional armies. But there's a catch. There is a region called Lavrado in the state of Roraima, which is a savanna area ideal for maneuvering troops and armored vehicles. If Venezuela decided to invade Brazil, Lavrado would be the most logical route. The Venezuelan forces could advance quickly along Brazilian Federal Highway 1774, the only road that connects the state of Roraima to the rest of Brazil. The initial objective would be to capture the city of Pacaraima on the border and then move on to Boa Vista, the state capital. Remember we talked about this city before? So now you understand why Maduro has his eye on it. And do you know what's worse about this whole story? If the Venezuelans manage to destroy the Tari and Arim bridges, which are crucial for land transportation, they would probably be able to isolate Roraima from the rest of Brazil. That would make it much harder for Brazilian reinforcements to arrive. Knowing this, the Brazilian Minister of Defense has already stated that if necessary, the army is prepared for a very forceful "you shall not pass." In this scenario, Brazil would certainly use its aircraft, such as the Super Tucanos and the modern Gripen fighter jets, to attack the Venezuelan columns and their supply lines, preventing their advance. But that's something we can explore in another video. Getting back to the subject, this tense situation led the Brazilian government to take drastic measures, such as this military exercise in Rondônia, which simulates war situations to ensure the defense of the territory. But there's another factor that's making this crisis even worse. Besides the military provocations, there's a growing diplomatic crisis between the two countries. Venezuela has a $1 billion debt with Brazil, which exceeds $1.6 billion and has been stalled since 2017. When President Lula took office, he even tried to restore relations with Venezuela and resolve the debt issue. But the negotiations stalled. The situation became even more complicated when Brazil vetoed Venezuela's entry into Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, the economic bloc formed by Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. This veto was seen as an aggression by the Venezuelan government, and Maduro did not hold back criticism of Brazil, even publicly challenging the veto, saying that Venezuela belongs to Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Given this scenario, it is clear that the tensions between the two countries are not only military, but also economic and diplomatic. And knowing this, the big question that remains is, could this turn into a war? After all, we are living in strange times, to say the least. But in this case, the answer isn't simple. Look, on one hand, Brazil is clearly preparing for the worst. The mobilization of troops and armored vehicles in Rondônia, along with the anti-tank missiles, shows that the Brazilian army is ready for a quick response in case of any more serious provocation from Venezuela. On the other hand, Brazil has taken a very moderate diplomatic stance, as expected. Even after Maduro's provocations, the Brazilian government did not react aggressively. The Itamaraty issued notes of displeasure but avoided escalating tensions. Recently, even President Lula stated that Maduro is a problem for Venezuela, not for Brazil, trying to distance the idea of a direct confrontation. The most likely scenario, at least for now, is that tensions will remain in the diplomatic arena. But, as we've seen in recent history, situations like this can escalate quickly if they're not contained. And you? What do you think about it? Leave your opinion in the comments. In the end, what the Brazilian army is doing is sending a clear message. Brazil is prepared to defend its sovereignty and its borders. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. This mobilization in Rondônia is not just a common military exercise, but a demonstration of strength and readiness. By positioning its armored vehicles and troops in a region so close to Venezuela, Brazil is asserting that it will not accept provocations or threats to its territorial integrity. And the message is very direct. If Venezuela tries anything, it will be dealing with an army prepared to respond accordingly. And if you like this topic, take the opportunity to join our WhatsApp group. There we post the latest news about everything happening in the military world. The link is in the description. If you enjoyed this video and want to keep up with everything happening in the military world and geopolitics, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.